It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
Mom, what's that? Like, I've had little girls in the grocery store stare at me.
Yeah.
And not in like a malicious way. They're just like, oh my gosh. Or they think I'm a Disney princess or something. It's kind of cool. But then I get to say like, no, I'm married to Jesus. Like there is that wonder.
It's time for Morning Jolt with Sister Ignatia Henneberry from the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration.
Wake up!
This is Kyle Hyman here at the convent and campus of the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration with Sister Ignatia from Morning Jolt. And you are the vocations director for the order. Mm-hmm. What is your boundaries? Do you have like is this like for
the regional,
local, regional, national, international?
Oh, wow. No pressure. I guess for our province, but I'm for one from out of state as well. Like I'm from New York. So we do a lot of things out of state, but we're in such a great area too. So I guess it's fluid. How about that? Yeah, like national, but with like regional concentration.
Okay.
Maybe. So, I don't have a job description.
So what is the process for a woman who's discerning being a religious sister, discerning which order to join, and what role does the vocations director play in that discernment process?
Yeah. First, I'll probably say like most of what I've learned is from Sister Lois, who has been the vocation director for the past 20 years.
Okay.
And she's been doing a lot of onboarding with me, which consists of like multiple, just like fervorinos, that she just believes in me and you're doing great. So I'm trying to like
does she
take
have like
that
a
confidence.
slideshow that she takes you through and like I'm imagining like a corporate orientation?
No, she's hilarious. So there's like drawers in her filing cabinets that she has never gone through. And now she is checking them out. So she'll bring out just like our first brochure, just as like, oh, that's kind of funny. I think she's has a prophetic gift. It's just like listens to the Holy Spirit and then tells me what she's thinking. So
that's actually a topic I want to talk about in the future too, because at one point you talked about when we're talking about topics, we'll let the Spirit guide us.
Exactly.
So I think that's a whole topic to talk about. How do we let the Spirit guide us?
Okay.
But back to vocations director.
Come back. So that process, like when a young woman's like starts feeling the nudgings of Jesus inviting her to discern her vocation, or I want you just to be mine, or I see those religious sisters over there, like I want that to be you, or like however it starts. And then
that sounds pretty definitive. Like I want that versus maybe.
I think sometimes it's hard for us to be sure of how we're hearing him, but he doesn't confuse, but he also doesn't demand something. Like he doesn't coerce us or like, this is what you need to do. This is what I want for you. I want good for you. I think then we kind of get in the way of that because we get scared.
But don't you find, maybe it is a fear thing, that there's maybe many isn't the right term, but there are young women who are torn with this call to being a wife and a mother versus a religious sister, and see the pros and cons of each, and maybe and they kind of go back and forth and really have a hard time figuring out what God is calling them to.
Yes. Yeah. And I think each woman's different, but at least what I learned, like going through that process myself and like hearing some young women like talk, but I've just been impressed. I was talking to a young woman and just kept going back and forth. Like, I know it wasn't a long-term relationship, but just kept feeling this like nudging from the Lord to like, just take time to really discern a vocation. Like he was just like inviting her, and she, after a while, she couldn't deny it anymore. That didn't mean that there were tears and then it was painful to make that decision to step back from a relationship that was good. But yeah, that goes deeper than a pros and cons. Like, and I was discerning having to kind of mourn the loss of, okay, that means I won't get married. Okay. That means I won't have kids. Okay. But that didn't change the call that I felt on my heart. So yeah, you have to deal with that and like bring that to Jesus. I'm like, okay, this hurts. Like, what do you want me to think about this? Or like, you have good things for me. So like, what is that? if a young woman's like dealing with that, yeah, you have to be honest with him, like when something hurts or when the decision's difficult. But you also have to be honest with your heart too. Yeah, you can't deny what your heart is feeling and like what your heart is like really being drawn to, where you're feeling peace. Because if you just like shut that off, because like, no, I can't do that, or that's too much, then that's going to do things to you that you don't want, either anger or resentment.
So how much of your role is kind of the promotions of the order versus helping kind of one-on-one with discernment, and would you call it maybe spiritual direction a little bit with women that are considering the order?
Yeah, not technically spiritual direction, but yeah, I mean, you deal with things that are coming up in their prayer. So I usually am thankful when a young woman does have a spiritual director as well as she's talking to me, because we can talk about like, yeah, the discernment and like the community specific type of things and our charism, but then like the nitty gritty of her relationship with Jesus, with her spiritual director. I think that's helpful, and having someone like a third party that's kind of removed to help her with authentic discernment is also good. So yeah, as far as like promoting vocations and then like talking to people, I guess half and half involves like traveling, going to campuses, visiting high schools, being at a lot of like different events. But the whole point of those is that women that really do feel called and are inspired when they hopefully meet some of our sisters, then we like make contact with them and start a conversation, and they come on a retreat, they come on their own personal visit eventually. So
it starts with a group visit?
Usually, yeah. Like if it can, like we usually have 3 retreats in a year.
Okay.
So usually if it can, we encourage like the first visit to be one of those, because then a little less pressure on somebody to just like show up at the convent by themselves, like they're with a group, get a taste for our way of life and our charism.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there could be a solo visit. You stay for a weekend or a week, or what are we?
It depends. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, the young woman and the community kind of has time for, and that's more so because a discernment retreat isn't quite the daily life. Like that's not going to happen 24/7.
Yeah,
you know, but
it's specifically designed to help with that discernment. I imagine, right?
Yes.
It's a special time of prayer and get away from the distractions at home and stuff like that. Like like a typical retreat, but specifically for discerning.
And then the talks would be like geared towards discernment or religious life in particular, that sort of thing.
But then you probably also do have a tour and a little explanation of
and some fun too.
Daily
we
life.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, then like the solo visit would be more of spending time with the novices and postulants and just like living their life, like following them for the day. And then that also gives a lot of time for more personal conversations of if you have questions that you just want to ask. You're doing a cleaning assignment and you're getting to know the sister, and you could just ask her, like, what was it like when you entered? Or like, what's been really hard? Or what do you like about this community? Or, you know, a little more informal kind of conversations.
What is the ratio of people that come on those retreats to those that actually join the order?
I don't know. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what are the metrics of vocation work? I was a business major, and I mean, so I can look into that. I myself actually never went on a discernment retreat per se.
With any order?
Yeah, with any order.
Huh.
Yeah. It worked out.
But you just did a one-on-one visit?
Yeah, I was, so I went to school in Steubenville, and so did some of our sisters. And so it was just convenient on like a long weekend to say like, oh yeah, I do want to see the convent. Like, okay, just like hop in the van. We're going this weekend if you want to come. Yeah. So that's kind of how it started.
And what was your experience? Was it immediate, like love at first sight? Like, yeah, this is it. This is what I've been praying about. I was like, maybe.
It was, I probably at the time wouldn't have probably said love at first sight, but I was like, I left and I was like, wow, I like really like that. Or like, that was really fun. Or I have no idea why I really liked that, but I really did. And I want to come back.
Did you feel that peace that you were talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. When the sisters feel like more like family than the time that you spent with them really like makes sense. You feel like more comfortable than, well, I just was there for like a weekend, but like I felt comfortable. I felt at home. Or
did you ever feel like anxiety or doubt that this was the right option?
I never felt
cold feet, if you will.
I felt cold. I don't know if it's cold feet. You'll tell me if it's cold feet.
Okay.
But I feel like the only doubt per se that I would feel would be, wow, this is getting hard. Or, well, if I just left, some of these problems would stop. You think that.
Yeah.
So the doubt was never like, Jesus, do you really want me to do this? Like, I knew that this is what I was made for, but we have difficult times. Our vocation never is like all perfect. Like, there's problems that happen, there's difficulties, there's struggles, but on the back end of that, like after those things happen, I know that like, no, I was made for this life, and my life is actually better now than it was before, that struggle happened or that difficulty. So yeah, I guess I was blessed in the fact that like I had a strong confidence that like, this is what I was made for. This is what Jesus wanted for me. And I felt that like when I professed my final vows, it wasn't particularly hard. I was excited to like say the words, and I was loud and clear. So yeah, I guess I had that gift of confidence, but some people aren't as sure, or have doubts that, is this what the Lord wanted me to do?
Do you think about, and forgive me if this is getting too personal, we can skip it. Do you think about what you quote unquote gave up of having a family? Is that something that you think about, like, man, I kind of miss that? Or is there a piece of like, no, that wasn't my call? Or maybe a little both?
Both. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think it would be unnatural for someone, especially in like your 20s and 30s, to like never think about what that would be like. So like the occurrence of the thought, I think, is natural, but then it's like, what do I do with that? If I feel sorry for myself. But usually when that thought comes to mind of like, I guess like my friends, I'd probably have like a couple kids by now or whatever. And what would that be like? But the assurance that like, of all the like beautiful things that the Lord has let me see in my vocation, the young women's lives I've been a part of, just what he's done in me personally, like, I'm like, no, I was meant to do this.
Well, I think it's good to hear you say that, because I think a lot of us, when considering the vocation of priesthood or religious life, we've always thought of ourselves as being, married and having kids. And it seems like, well, now I'd be giving that up. And to realize that that's a natural desire that we have, and that there are different callings. And if your calling is to enter into the consecrated life or religious life, that those feelings don't necessarily go away.
Right. So usually, especially like helping women discern, like I would never want a young woman who is afraid of marriage or doesn't really want her own kids for whatever reason. Like that would be a red flag to me. I'm like, okay, like let's find out why that is. Yeah. Because again, that's a natural inclination. Right. So if you do feel like the natural desire for marriage, that doesn't necessarily preclude you from a vocation, but the desire.
That just means you're healthy.
Right. Congratulations. But the desire for your vocation should increase. My desire to live out my vows increases. My desire to serve him, to spread the gospel, like, increases. And the joy I receive from the people that I minister to increases. You can't just have like a lack in your life. You have more too. So
maybe kind of a pitch to any single ladies listening that think, maybe this is something that God's calling me. It's at least something that I should explore, something that I should discern with God. Is this what he's calling me to? Maybe at what age would you suggest that somebody start to talk to either you as a vocations director or looking to go into these retreats? Is, I guess, what would be the earliest?
Well, I think the earliest to like think about it and have it be part of your prayer should be, as soon as a little girl thinks about like putting on a white dress. Okay. We usually even think like 4th grade is a typical age for a young girl to like maybe see a nun for the first time and be like, Mom, what's that? Like, I've had little girls in the grocery store stare at me. Yeah. And not in like a malicious way. They're just like, oh my gosh, or they think I'm a Disney princess or something. It's kind of cool. But then I get to say like, no, I'm married to Jesus. Like there is that wonder. So like when that wonder occurs, don't squash that.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean your child is pinned for a religious vocation when they're 10.
Don't start picking your name.
Yeah. Don't freak out, but just encourage the wonder. Like as it is like, yeah, how can people do this? I don't know. Grace. But then, more seriously, I think into high school. So we do like, it's strange. Like I think young people today mature at one point faster, but not.
Right.
So I think if it comes up again in high school, I think like, seek out somebody maybe to talk to initially. But don't, if you're thinking about it and you're in high school, like don't freak out. Like it's okay. You have a lot of your life to go. But first bring that to Jesus, find somebody you can ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think like us and a lot of other convents, like you can visit, I think ours starts at 16, maybe like going into junior year.
For an overnight?
For a retreat, overnight experience. But then it's usually in college that it's more of a more serious discernment, which makes sense because also everyone's freaking out about like, what am I supposed to do for the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm.
I'm 19. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Would you suggest going to college first? If they graduate from high school and like, maybe I should have a college education before I enter, or maybe I shouldn't go into a big amount of debt before I enter religious life?
Again, it depends on the person, but I think most everyone would benefit from some college, if not 4 years. And if you were really certain about a vocation, then you could plan your education according to that as far as like debt and that sort of thing, because sometimes it is a hindrance. But I think the college experience provides so much more human formation than, because up until like you're 18, you've lived your whole life in your parents' home.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things have been decided for you. So I think having some independence and being able to integrate, who am I, like apart from my parents and what they want from me and all this, like I need to find my own relationship with Jesus. I need to find some independence. You don't need to go crazy, but just like be an adult. Like, you have to be an adult and be confident in who you are, like to know your own identity, So I would encourage probably anybody to take some time.
Is there any age that's too old?
Yes, that's kind of usually case by case, but I forget what ours is. It's 35 maybe is what we put out there. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's because it does get harder as someone gets older, because you've lived so much of your life, according to your own desires, or community life is difficult. So, I mean, if you've been a single person until 35 and then come to live this very large family life, and then in formation, you're going to be with people who could be 10 years younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
So that just like poses a lot of difficulties that, we don't necessarily want to put somebody through that case by case, but there is kind of this.
So somebody that's interested, what is the best step? Is it stop by, send you an email, give a phone call? What would you suggest?
If somebody's interested, our vocation information on our website, my email's there. You can call the convent. I'm usually home.
So the website is?
ssfpa.org.
SSFPA.
There you go. Sisters of St. Francis. Perpetual Adoration. Yeah. Fancy.
.org.
And
your email's on the website?
Yes.
Phone number's on there too?
Yep.
All right.
We are on Instagram as well. If you just want to take a back seat and just like watch a little bit and then, get comfortable, then you can like check out what our daily life looks like.
Is it the same Instagram?
SSFPA Vocations.
Vocations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, sister.
Oh, thank you, Kyle. It's great.
To make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe to this podcast in your favorite podcast app. And until next time, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.